So, to this really quick, hopefully, tutorial of how to draw 360 images in Blender. Sorry if this is a bit long, I just tried to record it, it was like half an hour, and that was way too long. So, here is a cube. This is what we're going to be using for drawing 360 images, and first things, oh god, now I can't remember stuff because I've done it twice. I don't know what I have done and haven't done, even though I've just started. So, first thing I'm going to do is UV image, let's make a texture. This is probably going to be, I'm probably going to be showing this to people who are going to be helping me with my game, so I'm just going to be showing you how to do that within my game, which is irrelevant for people who aren't watching for that reason. But this is just the way I like to do it otherwise, which is why I do it in my game. Anyway, so I like to have 512 is the size of one face of the cube. That's like how big I like the texture to be. So that times 2 for the, or squared, I don't know, whatever, for the width and height. And there is 6 sides to a cube, so that times 3 would be the width, and that times 2 would be the height. That's just the way I like to do it. Also, this is not necessary, but I like to do it because you can do really awesome stuff, which I'll be showing, is you can turn alpha off. I recommend doing that, leaving it black, making sure alpha is ticked, and everything should be okay here. So done. So now we have that, we need to unwrap the cube, so I hate this menu on the side. I hate this thing. I hate it when they added this thing. I thought it was going to be awesome, but it's not. It's just a whole lot of sideways writing which you can't read. At least I can't on the resolution of my screen. I did find out though, if you mouse over this stuff, you can scroll up and down. But anyway, so we want to unwrap this cube. That looks horrible though, so let's go cube projection. I use cube projection because that has a square that's the height of this thing, so that's really handy because I can just say 0.5 to scale that down and it'll all fit, all the sides will fit in here. So next thing we want to do is we want to get the front face. So the front face will be the opposite of the face that shows is in front of you when you press when you go to front view. So I want the face on the other side, that face there. If I go to face selection mode, there we go. And you'll see on the UV thing, that just has that one part of the UV thing selected, which is pretty cool. We also want to have this mode, face selection mode thing selected. It's not really necessary when you're selecting things like this though, but it's handy and will stop you possibly messing stuff up which you don't understand because you didn't have that happening. Yep, we also want to say disabled with this thing. So, this is the front face. Front face will go up here. And because I don't know a shorter, faster way of doing this, I'm just going to manually align that to here. And that'll be good enough. So, that is the first face. Now, I want to have all the other faces here, but I have an order that I do them in, because otherwise it won't look right on my game. So, the way to figure out what order that is let's just draw with the texture paint. So, this is 1, 2, 3, that's a horrible 3, 4, 5, 6, and I put a thingy on the 1 so we can see which way's up, otherwise I'll just do a 1 as a line, but then you can't tell if it's upside down. So that's that. Let's make it now so we can see these UVs, so go to material mode, and this is just in BI, because BI can do this really easily to display textures on stuff, and texture painting, all that. We want to enable shadeless and also transparency and turn that down because the texture has alpha in it. Then we go to the materials, we say image, and then you click on this thing, untitled is the image we got, and change this to UV and tick alpha. And there we go. So that's that. We'll be actually seeing this cube from the inside. So if you press number pad 5, which is the 5 that is on the number pad, the pad of numbers to the side of your keyboard if you have that, not across the top of the keyboard. And yeah, that would switch to orthographic and perspective views, or switch between them. So that's that. Just because I can, I'm also going to get rid of this grid. So to get rid of this grid, press N to pop this thing up, then go display. We can just go only render, that's one way of doing it. Or you can say grid floor and then X and Y, and there we go. Now we can still see where lights are and stuff, I guess. I don't know. And there we go. So now if we scroll down into the middle of this cube, just keep scrolling until it stops scrolling in perspective mode. This is the sort of view we're going to have when we actually do the drawing and stuff. So That is side 1. Then to the left, to the right of that, sorry, this right side one will be number 2. So change that back to view. And that is number 2. We can see here that it's inverted in the x, so s, x, negative 2, done. That was not right number. What? 2. Oh, negative 1, sorry. Then the one behind will be 3. Negative, I almost pressed negative 3. And this one is 4, so this is now the left side face. That one's not mirrored for mysterious reasons. And then if we go up, that one is 5, which is the top one, which is in the Y. It's inverted in the Y. And if we go down, this is weird. Do I have a... Oh yeah, I got weird camera mode turned back on. Forgot about that. Whoa. Anyway, bottom one would be 6. Just like that face, and put the 6 where it is. So you may be wondering what the world's going on with my camera controls. Why am I so bad at it or whatever? That's because I got a different camera control thing. I use trackball, or I don't know, whatever the other one is, if that's not the right one. I don't think that's the right one. So what that means is I can do this. You can't do that with the normal default camera thing. I just use this one because this is what I'm used to, also because it adds this extra cool feature of being able to rotate everything. It takes a while to get used to it though, how to use this feature, like this view mode, I mean. But it's pretty cool when you do get used to it, because you can see everything from all sides and all that sort of stuff. I'm not entirely a master at it. But anyway, basically the way this works is if you go from like left to right, it will shift everything left and right. So if I go to top view, show it off a bit better. So you can see it goes around the sides of the... It's a bit weird when you look at it directly, top and bottom. Around the sides of it, basically. So, and yeah, and then if I was to click on the sides and go up and down, it'll rotate the view. And then if I click at the top middle, it does weird things. It's sort of halfway between the two. So it rotates around weird axes. Anyway, so that's how that works. It's pretty cool. To change that, you go user preferences, input, and turntable. So this is trackball and turntable's the default one normally. So that's that. Which is weird because I've got the view slightly rotated. Anyway. So what that does with this one is basically the horizon is always in line or level or whatever with the left to right. So I can do whatever I want, but I could never get this grid to turn up like vertical. And yeah, so that's how that works. Anyway, back to this. How have I recorded for? Like my recording thing go? Only 8 minutes this time. Wow. Yeah, so now we've got all the numbers on the right side. What we've got to do is clean this thing up, because if I select all the faces, it's all over the place. So the reason why I only need to line up this first one is because you can now go snapping and turn that to vertex and snap the faces. So, yeah, what? Wrong button. Oops. And there we go, nice and clean now. So next thing we want to do is we want to add a bit of an island margin to these things, for reasons I will show off anyway. Hopefully it won't take too long. So anyway, let's skip that. So it's texture painting. Now we can texture paint on this thing. So when you want to texture paint on it, you've got to zoom all the way into the middle of this thing. Turn that off. Just to say, if you don't know if the camera is not lined up with the middle of this thing, you can line it up with the full stop or delete button on your number pad. By selecting objects and then pressing that, it'll put both of those objects, or more so the medium point between those objects, I think that's what it's called, I don't know, into the center of the view, and preferably most of the time, I normally use it with orthographic view. It'll put them both in the view, and they'll both be in the view with that thing as the center. So if you do that, that centers the view, so now we can zoom into the center of the cube. And we know it will be the exact center. It has to be the exact center, otherwise the illusion of the 360 image won't work. Because you may be wondering why I'm not using a sphere. It's because it doesn't have to be. You can use a cube. As long as you're in the center, it doesn't actually matter what shape you use. You could use a triangle if you wanted to. To sort of show off what I mean by that, I can scale this cube. And you may notice it doesn't look like I'm scaling right now. No lines are changing, nothing's happening. That's because of the perspective. If I was to move out, then you can see it scaling. So the same thing happens when you draw. It will give you the illusion that you're not inside of a cube. Anyway, so let's texture draw. Now, if I go to texture paint mode and I draw in the corner of this thing, which is not draw. Oh yeah, I forgot to invert faces. You got to invert the normals. So Control N to bring up the invert the whatever it is, recalculate normals thing, and then you just tick invert. That's that. So now I can texture paint somewhat. So this is another problem here, which I won't get into right now because I need to fix this other thing first. But that is a known thing, don't worry about that. I'll show you how to fix it in a moment. But the other thing is, I have drawn this thing in the side here. And now, if I was to look around the place, there it is. That I did not draw. That is because it's bleeding the texture painting from this thing over to this thing, although it's at the top of the one, so that's a bit weird. No, it's not at the top of the one, it's on the 5. So the way UVs work is, this is sort of going off the top of here, and then onto the bottom of here, in a weird way. Yep, as you can see there. And anything that goes off the left appears on the right. Same thing will happen with UVs. If I was to move the UV off outside of this thing, you would see one appear if I was to move it to the right of the 3. So it's, yeah, it like loops around on all sides. So that's why that appears there. So you may be like, oh, how do I get rid of this stuff? And you may have noticed this stuff all of the time whenever you're texture painting and doing stuff. That's because I don't have island margins. What island margins are if I edit mode, island margins are, it's going to go up here. Every time I choose a different corner wherever I record this thing. Oh, I got the gradients. Damn. Spacing, basically. So if I was to select this face and scale it down, that would be giving it an island margin of 1 pixel. So we want to do this. We want to scale it down by around about 1 pixel. So just anywhere over that line is fine. It will just assume that it's on this pixel, so you don't have to worry about it. So I want to do that with all the faces. There's probably a manual, an automatic way I can do this with all faces all at once. But I don't know what it is, and I've done it a really annoying way this time. Normally I draw in like the 4-corner thing, so I've only got to zoom in and out once. But anyway, that's that. Scale it all down by around about 1 pixel. It could be more, it could be less, it could be whatever you want. But that is enough for me to not notice the glitchiness anymore, although it can still appear, so you probably do it by 2 pixels, but this is fine for this example. Also, if you're doing it for my thing, that could actually cause problems, so, but don't worry about that. I can fix those on my end. Just go by 1 pixel. So, yes, now if I go back to that, I don't have that thing up there anymore, and I shouldn't have anywhere. So there we go. So, now, why is it sort of only drawing on that corner? The first thing you might think is I haven't flipped the normals correctly, and that is wrong. What actually is happening, I don't really know. It's just not drawing on the space. It could be the way it calculates distance or something. It thinks this face is too close to the screen or something, so it won't draw on it. Sort of like how clipping start works. I don't know. But one way we can fix that is by subdividing. So just subdivide the whole thing a couple of times. That was pretty cool. It's like straight. All the lines are straight. That's pretty crazy, isn't it? So that's what I mean by the illusion. Wait, did I mention that? I don't know. This is sort of the illusion of why a sphere doesn't matter, is because these lines are straight. Which they are. They should be perfectly straight as long as you're zoomed in entirely to the center of the cube. So when you draw on this thing, you won't actually notice that you're inside of a cube. It will look like you're inside of whatever environment you're drawing, unless you're drawing a cube as your environment, in which case it will still look like you're inside the cube. But anyway, so that's pretty cool. Let's just subdivide that a few times, just like 2 times would be enough. That's that. Now when I can draw on everything just fine. Great. So you could just be like, that's a sun or something. I don't know. I'm just drawing things randomly. So that's that. Next problem. How do you draw with alpha? Because I want to clear away all these numbers now and actually do something. How would I go about doing that? So, you may have noticed whenever you try to draw, there is no alpha slider when you try to pick color. So how do you draw with alpha? What you have to do is you've got to go blending, or blend. And within here there is erase alpha. And there we go, now we can erase alpha. I'll explain why I have used alpha in a moment. Let's just make that really big and clear the stuff over here. Strength is 1. Because we don't need those numbers anymore. Those were just so we had the grid lined up correctly. Just scribbling over it a few times just to make sure. Yeah, okay, so now... What was it doing? Oh yes, drawing. Now we can draw on it. Everything's all good. So let's go to add. Something weird happened with add last time. Yeah, I can't seem to add. That's weird. Maybe it only adds to places where there's already something. I don't know. Let's go mix. What? Alpha. There we go. So now we can draw again. And let's put the size of this thing down a bit more. There we go. So now we can draw a pretty picture of whatever we want in 3D, like, as if it was 3D, and yeah, so like we could sort of draw this thing, be like, woo, there's a line, draw a little camera thingy, triangle thingy. So now, this doesn't look like it's in a cube. Like, as we can see, I can look around the place, and the perspective between, like, the things I was sort of tracing over and the actual lines I've drawn don't seem to change. So it looks like I've just drawn in the 3D viewport. It doesn't look like I'm texture painting a cube right now. Whereas if I zoomed out of this thing, you can see what I've actually done. And that's a bit weird. Like, you wouldn't have realized this thing was on the corner of a cube at all when I was in the middle of it. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. Scroll back in again. And everything lines up. So, yep. Now, why I did this transparent is the exact same reason I could do what I just did then. Because this is a transparent cube, we can see through it. And what that means is you can do stuff like this. Let's create a plane. This will be our ground plane. So that's where the ground is. And then let's put a box. Sure. Box. And put that over here or something. Let's put another one inside the cube. Actually, let's just do it inside the cube just to show. It works outside or inside, doesn't matter. Let's put another cube on top of that cube. Damn it. One. Grab. That'll do. Now if I go back to this thing and zoom into the center. And material? No. Solid? No, it is material, isn't it? Yeah. And then texture paint. So now we've got these cubes here, and we can see that quite clearly in perspective. Like, this is all 3D. We can see cubes there, there are cubes there. And we've got the ground plane around us, and the camera and light over there. So what I can do now is I can trace things. So I am horrible with drawing straight lines in this thing for some reason. That was a really bad line. Yeah. Okay, let's actually use the straight line drawing tool. I'll show off these things in a moment. Stroke. Line. Like, ba-doop. 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 Good enough. There we go. That should be that. You can also show off this sort of horizon plane thing, which is a square. So I'm just like rounding off the corners, making it look more like a more round. And then we won't be able to see that behind the box. There we go. So that's that. Now, I can press backslash on the number pad, and what that does is it's just moved this, the thing that was selected into a separate layer, so I can then view what this looked like without all that other stuff interfering. So if I zoom into the center of this, we can see that quite clearly looks like a box on top of a box. All the lines nice and straight, just as I drew them. We got the horizon line, the camera, the light, and it looks good. So I could draw around the place, do whatever I wanted. I could do like a whole scene. I'm horrible at art, so I'm not actually going to do that. But we can see if we zoom out, everything becomes really distorted and weird because of perspective, and it's all drawn onto a cube. So yeah, that's that. So that's our 360 image. Yep. And that's how you're able to draw wherever you want to draw. So you could do lots of other stuff with this, which I'll just show off. You can put textures on your brush and stuff like that. Oh, bugs in my room. Why are there so many? It's weird. Anyway, so yeah, by changing stroke stuff. So this is the line tool. You can draw lines with it. We've also got the drag dot, which this one's a weird one. Let me just make that a bit bigger. So I can click, but it won't actually draw this dot until I unclick the mouse. And then wherever the mouse was when I moused up is where the dot will be drawn. So that's really handy for things like if you're doing a seamless pattern or something with a texture. You don't want to put it down like 1 pixel off center. You can do this thing, make sure it's all lined up, and then go there. That's where I want it to be. So that's where that comes in handy. You've got another one, space, which is the default one. This one draws, like you'll notice if I move it slowly, it like draws dot. And then it won't draw, then draws. And then won't draw, and draws. That's because this one works by space. So at the moment, if it moves 10% of the diameter of the brush, then it will draw. So you can up or raise or lower that to have different sort of effects. Except if you lower it too low, it will lag a bit whenever you're drawing. Then we've got airbrush. So this one draws dots, but instead of by spacing, it's by time. So every so often, which can only assume this is in milliseconds. So 1 would be a second, and this is 0.1. So every 0.1 seconds, it's drawing a dot. I think. Sure. Then we also got anchored. What this one allows us to do, which this is a bit of a glitchy one, is we can click and drag, and this will. It's like the one that you can click and drag to move around and let go when it's right. Except this one changes the size of it, not the location. So when I let go of that, there we go. We got that big dot, another big dot. So that's pretty cool if you were doing like a sunrise or something. You wanted like cool colors in the sky and jump. But this is a bit glitchy because if I was to move the... let's make it a bit bigger. Interesting. Well, anyway, that is the glitchiness, which was a bit off-center. But anyway, so you might be thinking it's just because of the face of the cube or something like that. Well, it's not. It's actually from the viewport. So I can change the viewport to be like down there, do that again, and you can see it's clipped at a different place. So it'll only be doing that within the viewport, which I have absolutely no clue why, but it's been annoying. I haven't been able to figure out a way around that yet. One way is by changing the field of view of the camera, so you can almost see behind you sort of thing. And then click and drag, but you'll notice that happens. And it's like, whoops, I just broke Blender. Just like a big crack in it. So as you can see here in the UV thing, it's only filling in certain faces, and then it's like being clipped out, like how it was at the beginning of this when I was trying to draw and it wasn't drawing on one of the faces, like the normals were flipped or something. I don't know. As far as I can tell, it's probably the same problem that's doing that, so you could just subdivide it like 1 billion times, and so it's nice and smooth. I guess is one way you could get around that, but it's still probably going to give you weird shapes. I don't know. Also, just to say, I like to have my lens at 38. So 38 is about 90 degrees field of view. If you want to find out what a field of view is, you can select the camera, and then within the camera settings you can change the field of view, and you can also change the type of field of view it is, like if it's in degrees or field of view, I think is actually what they call the other one. Anyway, so you can type it in degrees, and then change it to field of view, and that'll give you what the number is, so you can convert between the 2 units. Yeah, so that's how I know that's around about 90 degrees. It's got some decimal places, but that's fine. Anyway, then we got line tool, which I already showed, and curve. I have absolutely no clue how curve works. I was messing around with it yesterday, trying to figure it out. Never Googled it or anything, I was just messing with it. And I don't know. So you could Google that to find out how that works. So yeah, because you can use textures on your brush and stuff like that, you can do sort of photo bashing things, like using real pictures of clouds and stuff like that, just like pasting them around the place. It's got some pretty cool capabilities and stuff here, stuff that Photoshop can't even do, which is really awesome. Yeah. But you probably know what that is if you mess around with this for a while and then have used Photoshop. Just this one thing. Anyway, I'm getting distracted. It's getting too long. 25 minutes. Anyway, so that's pretty much it. You can do all that. This is the way I like the UV for my stuff, because it uses up the entire of the UV space rather than being like a T-shape, because a T-shape has like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 squares worth of space, like 6 spaces worth of space, which aren't being used. So your image is quite literally twice as big as it needs to be, where this way it's exactly how big it needs to be. So that's nice. Also, if you wanted to do like a 360 thing you upload to Facebook, like the place where this yeah, I'm going to be uploading a link to this to an image that I did in that style. Who knows how people are going to be seeing this in the future, though. But yeah, so like one of those 360 things on Facebook, if Facebook even exists in whichever year people actually start watching these things, if ever. Hello, alien race. Just ruins of Earth has found my video. Yeah, you can change this to cycles and mess with the camera and do a panoramic thingy using this as the texture of a diffuse thing or something like that, with or of an emission, I mean. And then you can do a 360 thing and upload it to Facebook or whatever. But yeah, that's pretty much that. So as you can see, with this sort of method of drawing, I can yeah, turn that down. I can draw something. And just like I would with 2D stuff, I don't know, I'm no good at drawing things. We'll do like a cube. Sort of. Yay. Yeah, and that's all good. Although because this is a realistic camera sort of thing, you do have a bit of distortion from the left to right side of the screen. Like, that may not be, like, if I did that with a perfectly straight line, it may not actually be a perfectly straight line because of the field of view. So the closer in, the more accurate that would be, and the further out, less accurate. Because it's like the sides of the screen are actually closer to the middle. Like if I go all the way out, you can see that to the extreme. So if I drew, if it would let me, if I did something like that, I zoom back in, all the way back, 1.8 is whatever I had it. You'll see this line is really weird. Anyway, basically what... Wow, that's actually quite cool. It gives it like a whole flying through space sort of effect, like it's actually in 3 dimensions. Like there's a big... Yeah, I don't know. That's cool. But basically what I was getting at is that would be smaller, I assume, than the middle of it, and then that would be going smaller again. So the size of the brush would be changing as you draw. You can see that really clearly in here. So it's big to small. That's because of the perspective. Anyway, so that's pretty much everything, I hope. So have fun messing around with that. You could do layers and things like that. You could create multiple cubes with multiple different UV things. So one would be like your background UV. So you could do layers like in Photoshop with that. Although moving around between layers is a bit weird and you can't like copy paste between them or anything like that. But that's the thing you could be doing. So you could have different things, different layers. You could also have multiple UV textures and stuff like that, I believe, and be drawing on different ones. I haven't messed around too much with that, but I'm pretty sure it's possible. Oh yeah, you've got to change it within this thing. You can have multiple UV maps, you just select whichever one you're drawing on. And I'm pretty sure the UV map is linked to the image in here, so when you're in edit mode of the object, you select your image, and whatever one you select will be attached to... I don't know. I'm just making stuff up right now. I haven't actually checked this stuff, fact-checked it at all or anything like that, so I don't know how true that would be. But that's what I'm assuming. I don't even know why I've added that to this thing. Anyway, so that's that. Yeah, so thanks for watching, I guess. Hopefully somebody can help me with my thing and finds this useful and all that sort of stuff. And yeah. Damn it, it's almost half an hour again. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye.